It's Central African time, and you're still tuned in to News and Views on myself, Salailo Makwidiri. We're going to be kickstarting the show with a very, very concerning state of events. I'm sure we all know by now that there's anti-immigrant sentiment all across the country, and there's a very, very large Zimbabwean community here in South Africa, and for thousands and thousands of them, those families that are living in the country live under the Zimbabwe exemption permit. And the start of the new school term has brought more anxiety than excitement for many of these families. The ZEP coordinating committee claims some parents are pulling their children out of school, fearing they could be identified because of their immigration status. If true, very, very concerning, and it raises very, very serious questions about whether children are becoming unintended casualties of South Africa's immigration crackdown. South African law is clear that every child has the right to basic education, regardless of their nationality or documentation. But advocacy groups argue that fear, misinformation, and uncertainty are keeping some children away from the classroom. So we're going to be getting to the bottom of it. What is really happening on the ground? How widespread is this problem? And are schools, government departments, and parents interpreting the law correctly? And joining us is the education coordinator of the ZEP coordinating committee, Mavis Kanjuma. Mavis, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
Pleasure is all ours. I want to jump right into it. If you can give us the situation on the ground, the claims that you guys are making, that children are being withdrawn from schools. What exactly are you seeing? How widespread is the problem? And what's the cause of it all?
All right. Thank you so much. We're having a number of children who are going back to Zimbabwe because of the situation that's at hand here in South Africa. The parents are also going with their children as well. So now we've got learners who are supposed to start school back home in Zimbabwe. But now the challenges are we've got people who are doing matric. We've got people who are in grade 7, grade 10, and grade 11. And the curriculum that's in Zimbabwe is very different from the curriculum that we have here in South Africa, which will be a challenge for our children.
Is it the schools that are telling these learners that they cannot attend because of documentation or just generally what's happening in the country right now, or are parents voluntarily keeping their children at home out of fear of what might transpire?
Okay, it is in two. I would say some parents are keeping their children home because of fear, and most of the parents, they left South Africa because most of them, they lost their jobs. As we all are aware that children, they are taken care of by their parents. So if a parent is not financially stable, they will not be able to take their children to school. Hence, they are forced to go back to Zimbabwe.
And do you have specific figures, numbers of how many children have been affected so far, or at this stage it's still relatively difficult to quantify?
As a ZEP educational coordinator, we've been compiling quite a number of names. We've got people from different provinces. We managed to contact them. So roughly, I can say we've got more than 1,000 students that have went back home, and some are still on their way back home, and some are also planning to go back home.
And I want to talk about the impact of this. You mentioned something that's very, very important. The fact that you have some children who are matriculants who have to now leave school mid-year, and also ones that are in grade 7, obviously having to transition to high school and having to do it under a different curriculum. How difficult is that? And what's going to be the impact of children having to move countries and having to move schools and curriculum mid-year? And also the difference between the curriculum of South Africa and Zimbabwe. How difficult will it be for children to adjust?
There is not going to be any way the children will adjust. For example, we've got so many children who were born here. Most of the children, they were born here. They only know South African languages. For example, at school, there is Afrikaans, there is isiZulu. In Zimbabwe, there's no Afrikaans, there's no isiZulu. And it's going to be difficult for them to adjust. Well, I can say for people that are in grade 12, that's the matric. It is different in their exams that we do in Zimbabwe. So there is no way that they can write the ZIMSEC in Zimbabwe, we've got the ZIMSEC, that's what we call them. Our curriculum is called the ZIMSEC. And here we're using the CAP. It's very, very different. So, for example, a child who's in matric, if he goes back to Zimbabwe, he's going to start over. You'll find the child will finish school when they're around 25, 27, which is not good. Then, yes, kids will get to be sustained to bullying. And most of the kids that we have spoken to who can speak for themselves, especially the ones who are in matric, they are so frustrated. They are like, how are we going to cope? How am I going to repeat? I'm in grade 12 now, which is equivalent to Form 6, which in Zimbabwe. Then I'll have to go back and do grade 8, which is in Form 1 in Zimbabwe. It does not make sense at all. So it's so frustrating for the parents and the children as well.
Very concerning indeed. Imagine having to move from matric right back to grade 8 when you felt you are at the end of your school career. I want to touch on something. I think it was earlier this year in April, if I'm not mistaken. Home Affairs, I think, came out and stated that ZEP holders can now apply for permanent residency here in South Africa. How has that process gone by? Are ZEP holders, securing residency, or we all know the situation with Home Affairs? Has it been difficult? What's the latest on that front?
That has not been passed, really. It's been said, but it's not been passed by our minister. What we are aware right now is that the ZEP, they are still valid up until 2027. But this thing of applying for permanent residence, it hasn't been passed. So we are still waiting for the final decision that's going to be made. Hence, we are on suspense. We really don't know what our future holds for our children and for us as ZEP people who are living in South Africa.
And has there been any kind of engagement with the Department of Basic Education about these cases? Has there been responses that you've received? Because it's really concerning, as you mentioned. Some children are born here in South Africa. This is the only home that they've ever known, and now having to be uprooted. It's a difficult one.
Yes, we did communicate with the ambassador, and he promised us actually that he will come back to us as soon as possible. So we are still waiting, and we are pushing that the response is made as soon as possible, because now, as I was saying, we are looking at the people who are due to write exams, the grade 7, the matric. We cannot wait any longer. We really need this to be made possible as soon as possible.
I want us to take a quick break, Mavis, but then when you come back, I think we'll continue with the conversation, and also just speak about generally the mood amongst Zimbabweans, migrants who are here in South Africa over the events of the last couple of days. Are people fearful for their lives? You mentioned people are moving back to Zimbabwe in their droves. So I want us to hone in on that a bit, but we'll do that after this short break.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Right now, over 150 million children around the world are orphaned, facing hunger, hardship, and uncertainty. With Islamic Relief's Orphan Sponsorship Program, you can provide a child with access to education, nutritious food, essential healthcare, and a safe home. Your sponsorship is not just support, it's hope, security, and a brighter future. Be the reason an orphan child smiles again. Sponsor an orphan today with Islamic Relief.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Baraka Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Baraka's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Baraka makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albaraka.co.za to learn more. Al Baraka, your partner bank. Al Baraka Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
20 minutes past 8 Central African time, and you're still tuned in to News and Views on myself, Salailo Makudir, and I'm still in conversation with Mavis Kanjuma, Education Coordinator in ZEP Coordinating Committee. And yeah, man, she's painting a very, very bleak picture. The fact that some school-going children are essentially being pulled out of school. Some are in matric, some are in grade 7, grade 10. Very, very critical time for their education. And they have to relocate, go back to Zimbabwe, or some of them have to stay home because their fears of attacks, their fears that, they might be pulled out of schools. Others, their parents can't afford school fees anymore because they can't go to work because of what's currently happening in South Africa. Mavis, thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went on to that short break, I just wanted to get insight on the general mood amongst Zimbabweans who are in South Africa, particularly those that are ZEP holders. This is a document that allows Zimbabweans to work, to study, to have businesses here in South Africa. It is legal documentation. Is there fear also from those that are documented that they might be targeted, they might be attacked? You mentioned others are pulling their children out of schools, which is the core of this conversation. But generally, what's the mood amongst the Zimbabwean ZDP community holders here in South Africa over the events of the last couple of weeks?
Okay, most of the ZTP holders have been experiencing the same issue because we're in our ZTP community, we always have discussions. If anyone has any challenges, we've got WhatsApp groups, we've got groups where we communicate. So we have managed to realize that most of the people are complaining about being arrested whilst you have your documents. The police is arresting you whenever they see you, especially with the memorandum that was put out by our minister concerning our permits being valid. If you find out most of the government organizations, they are not aware of it. For example, if you go to the bank, if you go to the police, when you show them your documents, I can give an example. There's one ZTP holder who was attacked and they saw a number of things in his house. He went to complain at the police. But when they checked his passport and saw his permit, they said it was not valid. He explained to them, no, it is valid. The minister said up until now, it is still valid. But it's unfortunate that they will say they do not know about it. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing. The Minister of Home Affairs said the permit is still valid. But when you go out there, for example, the banks, like I've mentioned, the police, the government, wherever you go, when you need necessary help, they will turn us down, saying, no, the permit is not valid, which is a serious concern.
And what would be the next step now for ZEP holders in particular? Because this is a very, very special group of people, and you guys essentially have enjoyed similar kind of rights and benefits that South Africans do enjoy. What do you see as the next step to also go back home, or to try and make sure that the relevant authorities here in South Africa educate every sector and every sphere, whether it's in business or it's in security, as you mentioned, the police or the private sector, about ZEP holders and what kind of benefits and rights they should be enjoying?
I think they should educate everybody. They should educate all the departments, all the governments, so that they will know that we are also part of the South African people. We are not here illegally, but we are here legal. And we must also get the benefits. For example, now we've been here for so long. Most of us, we've been here since 2010. And all our life, we've been here. We have made homes, we have families. Our children are born here. It's not easy just to go back home and start afresh. You will be a bigger foreigner back home in Zimbabwe. Just imagine how many years you've been here, and that you just have to go today. You are told go back to Zimbabwe. You will be the biggest foreigner there because things have changed there. Now we are familiar with things here, and we have actually made this our home. We've been working here. Our children are born here. We've made friends. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's very, very frustrating, if I may say.
And I think that's one aspect that's not spoken about enough. The fact that some migrants have been here in South Africa for so long that this is now home. And back home, Zimbabwe, for example, would be foreign for them. I want to come back to the education aspect here. What advice are you giving parents right now who are also considering pulling their kids out of school? Should they do that for safety over fears that their children may be targeted, or should they continue sending their children to school despite some of those fears? Or what conversations are you having right now with parents that are having those fears?
Okay, most of the parents who are affected, we cannot tell them what to do because they know where they are, they know where their children are schooling, whether it's safe for them or not. So anyone who makes up their mind that they want to go back home to Zimbabwe, those are the people that we want to support, so that when their children are back home, they will get the proper education. They will not miss school. Right now, people in Zimbabwe, they are at school. Here in South Africa, we are still on school holidays. So if they are back home, most of them who are there already, I'm sure it's actually disturbing. They are seeing other children are going to school and they are at home, which is not good.
And also, is there an opportunity right now, as you mentioned, we are right in the middle of the year, that some of these children could be admitted in some of the schools in Zimbabwe, or maybe this year is a waste, they should just wait for the next year so that they can start with school?
What we are proposing right now, we urgently appealing to the Departments of Education in both South Africa and Zimbabwe to urgently put places, if they can, put places that the children can be in schools right now. Yes.
And just looking, beyond this crisis, and this is my final question, what message would you like to leave South Africans with who maybe see this purely as an immigration issue rather than a children's rights issue? Because as I mentioned in my intro, the South African law is quite simple. Every child has a right to education, despite whether they're documented or not, or whether they're an immigrant or they're not. That's why you have children admitted to schools even though they don't have documents. Or what message do you have to South Africans who maybe don't see that aspect and just see it purely as an immigration issue?
Well, I would say, especially for the children who've got parents who are well documented, I would advise that as the South African people, that we see them as part of them, because every child is your child. If a child does not have proper education, the children are the future leaders of tomorrow. I would advise that they will not stop the kids from going to school, because it's even happening from the teachers. There is one parent who came complaining that my child was telling me, my teacher was saying, why are you still here? And it's so sad when it's coming from a teacher who is a parent as well. We expect the teachers to be protecting the children when they are at school. That's what we expect. So my final words would be like, can we just live as Ubuntu and try to accommodate the children who are here, who are at school, if possible. That's my plea to everyone who can hear me.
And I think we're going to leave it on that note. Mavis Kanjuma, Education Coordinator at EP. She's also part of the coordinating committee. Thank you so much for giving us more insight on this very concerning story, and I hope we chat again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you go. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. News and Views will be back with you right after this.